Welcome to the Gruber Company's Artificial Future Podcast. This is a podcast that we do every Wednesday and talk about recent developments in artificial intelligence. And usually we get a steady stream of news items that are quite manageable. But I'm telling you, this last week, it has been off the chart. And it all has to do with OpenAI's dismissal of Sam Altman on November 17th. Best guess on our end is this seems to have been a knee-jerk reaction to something that took place within OpenAI. And I can assure you that the full story behind the curtains of corporate America will never be revealed. There's so much intrigue that often takes place, and this one has not disappointed. I mean, this is like a Netflix series, if you think about it. Every other day it changes into something else and morphs into something new. So we all started, if you remember, with a huge surprise announcement that Sam Altman has been fired from OpenAI. Dispute with the board of directors and some of the other employees, and without any detail, other than there were some inappropriate comments made by Sam Altman or didn't share fully with the board of directors, without any detail, of course. Well, what the announcement then was that Mira Moriarty, the CTO, was going to be the interim CEO. And I think that lasted, what, guys, maybe a day?
I don't even think it lasted a day.
Okay, it was over fairly quickly, and apparently Mira, they must not have checked with her because she didn't want that part of the job. She didn't want to fill that role, and they quickly flip-flopped and they put the Twitch CEO, Emmett Shear, as an interim CEO. And I think the comment was made today that he may have broken the Guinness Book of World Records for the shortest CEO ever, which is, what, 55 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, he put that out on Twitter. 55 minutes and 30-something seconds, new record.
Yeah. And then the news suddenly becomes, well, there are enough people upset within OpenAI. How many of them signed a petition?
It was over 700 of the 770 employees. So the vast, significant majority of them.
And they wanted Sam Altman back in the company. And apparently that is what is going on now. They are proceeding with reinserting Sam. In fact, Sam made a statement just today. We caught that on Twitter. He says, "I love OpenAI, and everything I've done over the past few days has been in service of keeping this team's mission together. When I decided to join Microsoft on Sunday evening, it was clear that this was the best path for me and the team. With the new board and Satya's support, I'm looking forward to returning to OpenAI," Satya, of course, being the CEO of Microsoft, "and building on our strong partnership with Microsoft." So apparently Microsoft isn't too badly injured by the fact that Sam took the job briefly and then opted out and decided, no, I'm going to go back where I came from. So what's going to happen next is your guess is as good as ours. We're hoping that everything stabilizes because these people represent a technology that is nothing short of revolutionary in terms of being able to right some wrongs with mankind. And we're all anxiously hoping that things will go smoothly and that they'll be able to continue. We got an Instagram comment. CH215714N says, "Hi, sunglasses boys. Crazy story about OpenAI for sure. I hope they pay him double the salary now." Well, that would be nice. I'm not sure that salary was ever the issue. I mean, when you've got companies where valuation is estimated into the billions, what's salary, you know? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like GM, you know, the big problem with UAW was, well, Mary Barr is making millions of dollars per year, and, you know, our people are starving, basically. So it's not about salary, in my opinion, but, yeah, there may have been a package developed that compensates him a bit more than he was before. Interesting additional twist now. Apparently, Elon is chiming in. And a letter that was supposedly sent to GitHub or posted on GitHub a letter of concerns. And it was a letter from OpenAI, from the board and by ex-employees of the company. What kind of details did we garner this morning on that?
I'm not sure. You had said that you thought it was removed. I don't know where you read that, but I know that just some person posted this the other day, and Elon still had it on his Twitter account.
So it's still up and live. It's still available to read.
I don't know. I thought
Sure.
that you had read the GitHub had been removed. I know that Elon's post is still up.
Well, I found what appears to have been the original GitHub post, and it starts off with, "To the board of directors of OpenAI. We are writing to you today to express our deep concern about the recent events at OpenAI, particularly the allegations of misconduct against Sam Altman." Now, bear in mind, this was written by the employees of OpenAI.
Allegedly. There's
Allegedly.
no proof of that.
Right. And then they go on, they say, "We are former OpenAI employees who left the company during a period of significant turmoil and upheaval. And as you have now witnessed what happens when you dare stand up to Sam Altman, perhaps you can understand why so many of us have remained silent for fear of repercussions. We can no longer stand by silent," ergo the letter now. "We believe that the board of directors has a duty to investigate these allegations thoroughly and take appropriate action." Do we know when this letter was allegedly released?
I don't even know which letter that's a different one than I had seen. That's the different one that Elon posted as well.
So here's what they urged the board to do: expand the scope of Emmett's investigation to include an examination of Sam Altman's actions since August 2018, when OpenAI began transitioning from a nonprofit to for-profit entity. The next urgent item is issue an open call for private statements from former OpenAI employees who resigned or were placed on medical leave or were terminated during this period. Third item, protect the identities of those who come forward to ensure that they are not subjected to retaliation or other forms of harm. We believe, they say, that a significant number of OpenAI employees were pushed out of the company to facilitate its transition to a for-profit model. This is evidenced by the fact that OpenAI's employees' attrition rate between January 2018 and July 2020 was in the order of 50%. Throughout our time at OpenAI, we witnessed a disturbing pattern of deceit and manipulation by Sam Altman and Greg Brockman, driven by their insatiable pursuit of achieving artificial general intelligence. Their methods, however, have raised serious doubts about their true intentions and the extent to which they genuinely prioritize the benefit of all humanity. Many of us, they continue, initially hopeful about OpenAI's mission, chose to give Sam and Greg the benefit of the doubt. However, as their actions became increasingly concerning, those who dared to voice their concern were silenced and pushed out. The systematic silencing of dissent created an environment of fear and intimidation, effectively stifling any meaningful discussion about the ethical implications of OpenAI's work. Now, they go on, they say, we provide concrete examples of Sam and Greg's dishonesty and manipulation, including Sam's demand for researchers to delay reporting process on specific secret research initiatives, which were later dismantled for failing to deliver sufficient results quickly enough. Those who questioned this practice were dismissed as bad culture fits and even terminated.
Right there, what is the issue with that, though? Do we not see that these are normal things that happen in a startup? People get fired when we're trying to develop new technology.
Well, sure.
Does any of this seem out of the ordinary to you?
Kind of sounds like Tesla.
Yeah, it sounds like any startup.
You know, any employee that is relieved of their duties, fired, terminated, laid off, usually has an axe to grind.
Yeah.
So, no, this is not uncommon. But let's continue because there's some more items here that they specifically mention. So and some just before Thanksgiving of 2019, just before the holidays, letting people go is usually considered poor form. Greg's use of discriminatory language against a gender transitioning team member. Despite many promises to address this issue, no meaningful action was taken except for Greg simply avoiding all communication with the affected individual, effectively creating a hostile work environment. This team member was eventually terminated for alleged underperformance. Sam, now they go on, directing IT and operations staff to conduct investigations into employees, including Ilya, without the knowledge or consent of management. Now, this is an interesting accusation because Ilya later on is chiming in, being supportive of Sam Altman coming back to the company. They continue, Sam's discreet yet routine exploitation of OpenAI's nonprofit resources to advance his personal goals, particularly motivated by his grudge against Elon following their falling out. Now, Jesse, you had mentioned that that Sam actually is an astute businessman and responsible for the development and creation of some companies. Do you remember what those were when we had that earlier discussion?
I know. I mean, I just know that he was the CEO of a startup incubator, one of the biggest ones in Silicon Valley.
Okay.
There's hundreds of companies that have gone through there.
And we suspect that may have been the catalyst for the initial friendship between Elon and Sam.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how they met. I know that they were definitely in the same circles, though, for sure.
Mm-hmm. They continue, the operations team's tacit acceptance of the special rules that applied to Greg, navigating intricate requirements to avoid being blacklisted. Then they mention Brad Lightcap's unfulfilled promise to make public the documents detailing OpenAI's capped profit structure and the profit cap for each investor. And then finally, Sam's incongruent promises to research projects for compute quotas, causing internal distrust and infighting. And what are there, like 600 people at OpenAI currently?
770.
770. Okay. So it doesn't sound like a very large company, but definitely some culture problems and some. I
mean, this is not. I don't believe that this is actually true. I'm not sure where we're going with all this, but I don't think these culture problems actually exist based on the way that the current employees have reacted to Sam's departure, and everyone 95% plus in strong support, willing to quit their jobs over it. I don't think that this is even real.
Yeah. It even says from concerned former OpenAI employees. If you're a former OpenAI employee, why would you want to hide? Why would you not want to put your name on this?
Yeah.
And try to go after the guy if you have, some issues with him.
This seems like something like a glass door where people go review companies and the company have no recourse. It's just a couple of angry employees that now have tanked the reviews of the company that they used to work for because they got fired.
Mm-hmm. Well, the way that this article began was Elon Musk on Tuesday, 11/21/2023, served another curveball in the winding tale of OpenAI's evolving leadership. In the tweet below, Musk shares a link to a now deleted GitHub post, a letter of concerns, which we just read, and to the OpenAI board by ex-employees of the company. So anyway, it looks like Elon is involved at this point as well. It's going to be tough to keep tabs on how this evolves. And most of the research that we did on this evolving story is now obsolete because of all of the recent changes. We'd love to hear from you. Any thoughts, ideas, any kind of debate that you'd like to engage in regarding this issue. It would certainly be the time to do so. And again, our take is there are always issues that take place in corporate America, many of which cannot be made public. And for a number of reasons, the legal ramifications of certain kinds of slanderous statements. And especially if these are allegations and they're not true, I could see why these employees might want to hide behind that cloak of invisibility, having said things that they did. All right. So continuing here, let's get past the Sam Altman process or story. Can we bring up a picture at this point? And it is an image of the MAGA or Mojo-1. What we have here, once the image comes up, is what most of us are very familiar with: contact lenses. Contact lenses is a form of augmentation, fairly early on, improving vision. Instead of glasses, which are also an augmentation, they actually developed something that you can place right on the eyeball. Well, what we have here is a smart contact lens that is available, and we can get a better shot of it by going to Mojo-2. Obviously something like this can't be large, heavy, obtrusive, because it's going to have to sit on an eyeball somewhere and not interfere with your normal blinking functions or your eyelid functions. And you can see there's one installed on an eyelid. Here's the rest of the story on this. Seeing the future literally put me at a loss for words with a headline that these are smart contact lenses you can see the future with. There's a California startup called Mojo Vision, M-O-J-O, for those of you interested in Googling it, which finally has a human wearing its smart contact lens, bringing the future of AR and superhuman sight a major step closer. Now, AR is augmenting reality, unlike VR, which is virtual reality, which replaces your view of the real world with everything digital or digital graphics. Whereas AR, augmented reality, places digital image on top of the world of the real world display. So in other words, you can see both. So AR lets you interact more seamlessly with technology. You can read text without having to take out your phone, or see directions appear in front of your eyes as you navigate the new city. Now think about the safety ramifications here. There are concerns about the screens that we have now in cars and getting distracted and looking down at a 17-inch screen while you're hurtling on the freeway at 85 miles an hour in a 2,000-pound missile. Well, this actually would allow you to keep your eyes on the road and get telemetry or information. So the other thing that Mojo says, they want to give people superhuman sight. But let's go talk about some history. Smart contact lenses. In 2015, Mojo Vision launched with the goal of developing these smart contact lenses that would allow wearers to see digital information in front of their faces like AR glasses, but with the convenience of contacts. Well, they didn't plan to stop there, though. The company ultimately wants to use Mojo lenses to give people superhuman power, such as the ability to zoom in on distant objects and see clearly at night. Now, the first one, if you remember Lee Majors, the $6 Million Man, it's exactly what they're describing. When he needed to see an enemy that was 500 yards away, his eye was actually able to, with little sound effects, remember the boop, 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 right? It would actually be able to see a long distance away like a telescope. But here's one that intrigued me: see clearly at night. As drivers age, one of the first things that is affected is their ability to do night driving. They just can't see clearly enough anymore. And something like this could potentially create daylight by using a technology at night. So what's next? The company has unveiled several prototypes of its tech since then, but it wasn't until June 28th of this year that the CEO, Drew Perkins, revealed in a blog post that Mojo Vision had finally put its smart contact lenses on someone's eyes, his own. And after completing preclinical testing and also mitigating potential safety risks, he says, "I wore Mojo lens, and much to my delight, I found that I could interact with a compass to find my bearings, view images, and use an on-screen teleprompter. Pretty cool. Now, one of the things that popped up on Facebook, actually, one of our viewers has a daughter who lost her eye to cancer. And he said it would be great if they could do something to replace her eye. My comment was, the article reinforces that augmentation is coming rapidly, which is exciting for two reasons. Not only will we expand the range of senses, with replacement being the final conclusion, and most likely within our lifetimes. Now, think about this type of device. We have senses, 5 of them, that we're aware of anyway, and it's fairly limited. I mean, there are even insects and other life forms on the planet that have a wider range of vision than we do, into the infrared world, for example. Well, with augmentation like this, I'm not sure there are any limits to what we could expand to. So that's one area of excitement, is that we can actually begin to augment the senses that we currently have and experience well beyond what we had been given as humans. That's an interesting concept. Yeah, some sports limitations definitely have to do with our...
Wait, hold on, say that one more time, Aaron. You weren't on mic. For some reason, it was muted.
Oh, what I said was that if I had this in high school, I would have been able to hit a fastball, and I'd be playing for the Cubs right now.
Ooh, yeah, good point.
Yeah, improved vision, most certainly, yeah. Just think, that pitcher wouldn't stand a chance, would he? If you could see that ball leaving his mitt, So we've got some AI quotes for you today here. Already over 10% of millennials have opted for ride sharing over car ownership. But this is just the beginning, they say. Autonomous cars will be 4 to 5 times cheaper, and they make owning a car not only unnecessary, but also expensive. This is Peter H. Diamandis that is making this statement. He says, my guess within 10 years is you'll probably need a special permit to drive a human-operated car. We've been talking about that ourselves. We need to get humans off the roads. That's where the fatalities come from, and keeps the collision shops alive. Once the machines are driving and piloting these vehicles, the margin for error will be reduced exponentially. Do we have any questions, guys? I don't see anything coming up. All right.
Nope.
By the way, happy Thanksgiving to those of you that are taking an early holiday. We wish you and your families the best. We've got 20 people coming to our house, and tonight I'm going to be preparing the turkey for tomorrow. All right. Here's one. Claude Shannon says, I visualize a time when we will be to robots what dogs are to humans. And I'm rooting for the machines. Here's another one. Elon Musk. And we've probably heard this one before, but it's probably worth repeating to completely understand how Elon feels about AI and his concerns. I think we should be very careful about AI, he says. If I were to guess, like what our biggest existential threat is, it's probably that. So we need to be very careful with AI. Increasingly, scientists think that there should be some regulatory oversight, maybe at the national, the international level, just to make sure that we don't do something very foolish. With artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. In all those stories where there's a guy with a pentagram and the holy water, it's like, yeah, he sure can control the demon. Didn't work out. Well, there's Elon's view on AI. Here's another one, Kristen Clark. Whether it's in our cars, our hospitals, our homes, will soon depend upon robots to make judgment calls in which human lives are at stake. That's why a team of researchers is attempting to model moral reasoning into a robot. Now, we were talking about that. We're going to have a session on morals and AI and how the two intersect or even can or integrate, how it's possible. In order to pull it off, he says, or she says, Kristen Clark, They'll need to answer some important questions. How can we quantify the fuzzy, conflicting norms that guide human choices? How can we equip robots with the communication skills to explain their choices in a way that we can understand? And would we even want robots to make the same decisions we'd expect humans to make? Profound questions there for sure. All right. Engineers apparently have combined AI with a human-looking bust, a humanoid bust as they call it, to create a robot receptionist. And this is for the UK National Robotarium. And this is what greets people that they'd go there, apparently, to this facility. So because these systems, they say, are trained on huge databases, large language models, they can typically respond to questions on a broad range of topics, but they usually aren't experts in anything particular and can sometimes hallucinate, giving responses that sound true but aren't, which limits their usefulness. Additionally, because most large language models communicate via text, chatting with them isn't as natural as talking to another person. Verbal and nonverbal communication are hugely important to human interaction. So what's new with this humanoid robot? The engineers at Heriot-Watt University and Alana AI have combined OpenAI's ChatGPT 3.5, the same large language model used for ChatGPT, with a humanoid bust to create a robot receptionist that can interact with visitors. To minimize the chance of the robot providing false information about the robotarium, they scraped the center's website and stored the information in a special database that its AI accesses before responding to users. So it verifies whatever it's about to communicate. How it works, they say, is the basis for the robot receptionist is Furhat. Came up in an unusual name there. A social robot that is essentially a humanoid bust capable of lifelike expressions, movements, and speech. It doesn't look like we have an image of this humanoid robot, so we'll skip that portion. No, it's there. Try Furhat. So when a person talks to this robot, their speech is transcribed into text. Various systems then work together to determine what the person is asking and produce a text response and an appropriate facial expression and movements. Once we get that picture up there, you'll see that it's probably not impossible to generate human-like expressions or lifelike expressions.
Okay, sorry, I was in a question. What image?
Furhat. And it looks like they give the ability to both do a verbal communication and a text communication, because you can see the screen there. Now, remember, everything related to this kind of technology at this point in time is terribly crude. It is, first generation, and but it's not indicative of what this can evolve into. And I want to make sure that we go on record. We keep talking about deep fakes. Eventually, robots will be so realistic, there will be a Turing test for robots to determine whether they're real or not. TikTok. Micro Santachi says, congratulations for your work. I live in Italy, and here nobody can repair an old Tesla battery. Well, that day is coming, Micro Santachi. It's not rocket science, and there will be a lot of EV repair shops that will figure out how to do these types of repairs. And by the way, we spoke in our podcast Tuesday, the EV podcast. We have a LaFerrari here in Arizona, which is going to sell at the Barrett-Jackson auction at January 10th. And unfortunately, it's going into power limit mode, and they feel that there is a defective cell or a resistive cell that's causing this problem. There's a high probability that this battery pack out of this LaFerrari, which, by the way, they expect to sell for around $4 million, is going to come to our service center and get a battery repair. The only battery in existence at this point, apparently, is in Italy, but it's already spoken for, so replacement is not an option. And we thought that the $40,000 Tesla Roadster replacement batteries were expensive at $40,000. This battery actually has a price tag of $300,000. Not disproportionate with a $4 million car, I suppose. But anyway, speaking of Italian batteries, I did feel the need to interject that. So, talking again about this robot that we had up here, Fur Hat, you can actually talk to this robot, and when a person talks to it, the speech is then transcribed into text. Various systems then work together to determine what the person is asking, and it then produces a text response and appropriate facial expression and movements. Then they use text-to-speech technology to convert the text into audio, which is then played through a speaker in the bust. And that's probably that little black rectangular piece down below. In a demo video they shared with these researchers, the bot is able to describe the robotarium and answer several questions about pop culture and the future of robotics. While the answers themselves, they say, are conversational and appropriate, the delivery is still a bit robotic, with odd inflections and unnaturally long pauses while the bot thinks, in quotes. Those pauses are accompanied by an unblinking stare straight out of Uncanny Valley. So again, there's some further development that needs to take place before this level of technology is, we feel comfortable with it, let's put it that way, and it can pass a robot Turing test if there ever is such a thing. Looking ahead, they say, the researchers say that their robot receptionist was able to interact naturally with visitors and provide accurate information about its research, events, and more. They are now exploring ways to enable the bot to interact with multiple people at once, rather than just one-on-one, while continuing to look for ways to further minimize the chance of hallucination. I'm not sure how that would work, though. You have multiple people asking questions. Would the head then just simply turn, address each question? It would have perfect memory, of course, so it would remember, despite its giving information, who said what at what point in time, and be able to zero back in on that individual. All right, but out of, the human protocols and politeness, they probably wouldn't have too many people talking over each other, one would think anyway. TikTok, iPhone House says, hello, thank you for joining us on this Thanksgiving holiday week. All right. So Sam Altman, we talked about that. There is a statement here by the Verge, Verge magazine, on talks to bring back Altman. The publication, citing a source, said Altman is ambivalent about returning and would demand governance changes. Altman didn't immediately respond to CNBC's request for comment, nor did Thrive, and Microsoft declined to comment. No surprise there. This is evolving rapidly. Well, if you heard the earlier portion of our podcast, the ambivalence is gone. Apparently, he's back at OpenAI, and it's a done deal. All right. Here's a statement from Ilya Sutskever, who was actually named in that GitHub post from the ex-employees. He says, I deeply regret my participation in the board's actions. I never intended to harm OpenAI. I love everything we built together, and I will do everything I can to reunite the company. I think that's an excellent idea, Ilya. At this point, I think OpenAI needs a lot of reunification. And your help will certainly make a difference. All right, we got some self-driving car quotes here. This is from the national president of Mothers Against Drunk Driving. MAD is the acronym, MADD, 2 Ds. She says we must look for new ways to stop old problems. Fully autonomous vehicle technology holds incredible potential to completely eliminate the drunk driving and other causes of traffic deaths. Here's one from Dave Waters. He says, deep learning will change the lives of all of us. What is deep learning? It's behind what makes self-driving cars a reality. Now, remember, we talked about in some previous podcasts, excuse me, how Tesla was beginning to change their mind about how to enhance and complete their self-driving technology. Instead of writing hundreds of thousands of lines of code describing the shape of stop signs and traffic lights and intersections and rules-based type code, they ended up using the data that's been collected by their hundreds of thousands of vehicles out there, feeding that into AI, and then taking the best practices of known good drivers. They weeded out the bad ones somehow, and I think that was a peer review with humans looking at the videos. And they found that to be far more useful to creating a more bulletproof full self-driving capability. All right. Elon Musk again. Failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you are not innovating enough. My wife was surprised that the other day one of the big rockets blew up, and she said, why does Elon say that this is a good thing because they learned something? Well, that's how Elon is wired. It's kind of like Thomas Alva Edison when they said, you know, you've done 17,000 or something iterations of filaments for the light bulb, and all of them failed. He says, well, it's okay because we're getting closer to finding what works. So I think Elon must have read a Thomas Alva Edison book somewhere along the line. We've got a comment from Tavi Tak. From TikTok, he says, he's back, referring to Altman. Yes, he is. It's probably a good thing because if you've been in the AI world at all, Sam is definitely omnipresent. He does a number of presentations. He does a lot of education. One of the best ones I saw just recently was where he was showing how you can actually talk to ChatGPT. Besides just giving it prompts, you can have conversations with it. You can ask it questions. You can ask for guidance. And of course, this is all preparing us for what will eventually be a Siri-level communication capability with AI, which, by the way, we're going to talk about later on in this podcast. It's there. It's available now. It was announced yesterday. Anand Krish says, in the field of AI, it's set to conquer most of the human disciplines, from art and literature to commerce and sociology, from computational biology and decision analysis to games and puzzles. And I think Jesse had a profound statement earlier. What was it you were saying about businesses needing to rapidly adopt?
To rapidly adopt? What do you mean?
AI staff.
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't make the statement. It was something I read just saying that companies need to start hiring AI employees if they want to live.
Mm-hmm. Or survive, yeah. You know, one of the things that we work on here is we have call centers. A lot of communication takes place with customers, and everybody has different writing skills, spelling skills. Well, spell check solved most of that. But our goal is to provide internal education, tutors, and have AI at workstations for prompt generation and helping people communicate with their customers. YouTube, Peach Knee-High says, process of elimination. Good point. Dave Waters says, if people trust artificial intelligence to drive a car, people will most likely trust AI to do your job. Good point. Google is working on self-driving cars and they seem to work, as is Tesla, of course. This is Mark Andreessen weighing in. He says, people are so bad at driving cars that computers don't have to be that good to be much better. Thank you, Mark. That was a profound statement, one that I'm in total agreement with. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Here's an article, big headline. AI isn't close to becoming sentient. We just think it is. The real danger lies in how easily we're prone to anthropomorphize it. Now, I had to look that up, and you may also, but let me read you the definition of anthropomorphize. All right, let's see if I can find that here. Attribute human characteristics or behavior to a god, animal, or object. An example they give, people's tendency to anthropomorphize their dogs. So this article is kind of interesting, I thought, because it talks about the transition to AI and how we're going to have to adapt. They say ChatGPT and similar large language models can produce compelling human-like answers to an endless array of questions, from queries about the best Italian restaurant in town to explaining competing theories about the nature of evil. The technology's uncanny writing ability has surfaced some old questions until recently relegated to the realm of science fiction about the possibility of machines becoming conscious, self-aware, or sentient. In 2022, a Google engineer declared, after interacting with Lambda, a large language model that Google was working on, the company's chatbot, that the technology had become conscious. Then users on Bing's new chatbot named Sydney reported that it had produced bizarre answers when asked if it was sentient. Kind of confusing, actually, though. I am sentient, but I am not. I am Bing, but I am not. I am Sydney, but I am not. But I am, but I am not. And of course, there's the now infamous exchange that the New York Times technology columnist Kevin Roose had with Sydney. Sydney's responses to Roose's prompts alarmed him. And this was before a lot of guardrails were put in place. It was publicized, and they began to button down and tighten down some of these chatbots. But he says that with AI, Sydney began divulging fantasies, breaking the restrictions imposed on it by Microsoft, and of spreading misinformation. But the clincher was when the bot tried to convince this reporter, Roose, that he no longer loved his wife and he should leave her. Well, no wonder then, they said, that when I asked students how they see the growing prevalence of AI in their lives, one of the first anxieties they mention has to do with machine sentience. Over the past few years, and this is a professor speaking now from UMass, Boston's Applied Ethics Center. They've been studying the impact of engagement with AI on people's understanding of themselves. They say chatbots like ChatGPT raise important new questions about how artificial intelligence will shape our lives and about how our psychological vulnerabilities shape our interactions with emerging technologies. There's no doubt about a psychological element in this direction that we're going into with AI. They say that sentience is still the stuff of science fiction. It's easy to understand where fears about machines and sentience come from. Pop culture. It's primed people to think about dystopias in which artificial intelligence discards the shackles of human control and takes on a life of its own as cyborgs powered by artificial intelligence. Think Terminator 2 with that statement. Elon Musk is mentioned again, and physicist Stephen Hawking, who, by the way, died in 2018. Brilliant mind. They further stoked these anxieties by describing the rise of artificial general intelligence as one of the greatest threats to the future of humanity. The article continues, but these worries are, at least as far as large language models are concerned, groundless. ChatGPT and similar technologies are sophisticated sentence completion applications, nothing more, nothing less. Their uncanny responses are a function of how predictable humans are if one has enough data about the ways in which we communicate. Now, although this reporter, Roose, was shaken by the exchange with Sydney, he knew that the conversation was not the result of an emerging synthetic mind. Sydney's responses reflect the toxicity of its training data, essentially large swaths of the internet, not evidence of the first stirrings of a digital monster. Now, they say the new chatbots may well now pass the Turing test, named for the British mathematician Alan Turing, who once suggested that a machine might be able to think if humans could not tell its responses from those of another human. But they say that is not the evidence of sentience. It is just evidence that the Turing test isn't as useful as once assumed. Sorry, Alan, your test might have been appropriate 50 years ago, but in today's AI technology, we're going to need something far more sophisticated to flush out the imposters. Even if chatbots, they say, become more than fancy autocomplete machines, and they are far from it, it will take scientists a while to figure out if they have become conscious. Got a few comments here. TikTok. Ricky Thesix says, great channel. Keep up the great TikToks. Love watching your posts. Thanks for joining us on TikTok. Facebook, Nadir Shah N. Muhammad says, hi, sir. Welcome. Again, thanks for joining us. And EV Fan from YouTube, he says, I agree. Get people off the road. Totally. So then they talk about, in this article, our propensity to anthropomorphize, and that is to attribute human characteristics to AI, especially. It's easy to imagine other Bing users asking Sydney for guidance on important life decisions, and maybe even developing emotional attachments to it. Now, here's where it gets, this is another rabbit hole now. More people could start thinking about bots as friends, or even romantic partners, much in the same way that Theodore Twombly fell in love with Samantha, the AI virtual assistant in Spike Jonze's film, Her. People, after all, are predisposed to anthropomorphize or ascribe human qualities to non-humans. We name our boats. We name our cars. Big storms, you know, the hurricanes, they all, and they're alternating. Did you guys know that? It's male, female. Each a hurricane. Some of us talk to our pets, telling ourselves that our emotional lives mimic their own. In Japan, they say, where robots are regularly used for elder care, seniors become so attached to their machines, they sometimes view them as their own children. And these robots, mind you, are difficult to confuse with humans. They neither look nor talk like people. All right. Don't see any new questions.
So,
yeah.
We have an update from the Microsoft CEO. Hold on a sec.
Oh, another open AI update.
Let's see if I can pull it up on screen here. It's a little Thanksgiving post.
And this is definitely an evolving story. Many twists and turns.
Pull it up here. Make sure nothing on the screen.
While he's pulling that up, folks, we've got more AI music coming up here shortly. There we go. Can you blow that up a little bit, Jess? Sure. Oh, yep, and then go right into the text. I guess I can read that because some of our viewers aren't able to see the screen. At the end of the day, and this is a statement from Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. At the end of the day, the greatest privilege of my job is working with people who are driven by mission. These last 5 days, I saw people across OpenAI remaining calm and resolute in driving their mission despite all that was happening around them. And I saw people across Microsoft remain focused on our mission and serving our customers and partners, stepping up to help in every way. This is what I'm especially thankful for going into the Thanksgiving holiday. Thank you for your resolve and the work you do each day to advance AI safety and responsibly and distribute its benefits to all of humanity. You know, spoken like a true CEO, my hat's off to you, sir. You're right. When your employees remain focused on mission despite chaos around them, you know that the culture is the right one. All right, so we've got another item here. Google working with music generators like ChatGPT for audio. Apparently, they have a software now that can write 5-minute songs based on short text prompts. They unveiled this advanced AI music generator that can turn a snippet of text into a song. But again, legal concerns might prevent the tech giant from ever sharing it with the public. Some of the issues here are, well, where did AI get its ability to write music? Well, by scraping billions of bits of data, much of which was generated by humans. So you have these copyright infringement things. They can't quite pinpoint which portion did they scrape from my, if you're a musician, from my list of music. So that's going to be a potential stumbling block here. But it's great technology when you think about it. As we have talked about in the past, we used to make playlists on tape, if you remember. And if you remember that we're in the last century anyway. It was always a challenge to find the music.
Playlists on tape is even before my time. I used to make playlists on CDs and DVDs.
Well, there you go. Before tape, we actually had reel-to-reel tape. I used to make playlists on reel-to-reel as well. And
way back.
and if you had enough money, there was even a device back in the day that allowed you to write onto LP records.
Okay, well, that's before. But what is reel-to-reel? Is that like an 8-track or before 8-track?
Oh my God. Okay. It is a large reel, 1/4-inch wide magnetic tape. Unlike the cassette tapes, which were much narrower, about 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah.
This was 1/4-inch, large plastic spools, and you had these stereo components that had 2 spindles, and you actually had this tape running across some heads down below. They were, of course, magnetic. That could read the tape as it was coming across. You had different speeds. The higher the speed, the higher the fidelity, but the more tape you consumed for a given song. Well, one of my first stereos had, of course, a reel-to-reel tape recorder. It was quite common.
Wow.
But the issue with playlists is you had to think about, now, what was that artist? Which artist do I like? And usually leave out one. Like last night I was driving home, and I was trying to think. I had my Tesla Model S, and you can talk to it. You say, play Squeeze, play this particular, the Fifth Dimension, whatever, what artist you like. And I could never remember all the ones that I really liked. What this software would allow you to do with a biofeedback component, which is also we're very close to, it would begin to generate some noises. And then by reading your biometrics, it would decide what is appealing to you, focus in and zero in on the type of music you like the best. And it may not even have to be an established artist, because AI may do a better job of pleasing you or giving you the precise musical components you like. Choruses, whether it's classical, whether it's pop, beats, that type of thing. So I'm pretty excited about this technology.
It doesn't even have to be pleasing either, though. It could just be, I'm feeling sad today, play me something sad, or it could do whatever emotion you want it to. If I want to feel happy right now, make me feel like happy music, or
Yeah, play something uplifting to get me out of my funk, for example.
Yeah, you could use it to change your mood or complement your mood, whatever you want.
Yeah. Or I'm behind a wheel of my supercar and I need some motivating music to be able to do those triple-digit speeds. So anyway, they talk about the AI revolution, ChatGPT, DALL-E, and other advanced AIs capable of generating impressive text or images in response to user prompts. Well, this exploded in popularity in 2022. And they weren't the first generative AIs, nor the only examples of what neural networks can do. So several companies have also trained AIs to generate music in response to text, audio, or even image prompts. OpenAI, the research firm behind ChatGPT and DALL-E 2, even released an AI music generator called Jukebox back in 2020. Did you guys ever use that, by the way? I never did, because I wasn't into AI back then.
No, I haven't.
2020, you said?
Jukebox is what it was called.
I never heard of that one.
They say that these systems haven't been as enthusiastically embraced as their text and image generating counterparts, though mainly because their outputs aren't as impressive, or most are low fidelity, simplistic, lousy audio in other words, and lacking the traditional song structure, such as repeating choruses. So it sounds like at this point in time, humans may still dominate that field of artistic expression.
For now.
For now. Well, totally for now. So they say, what's new? Music making AIs are getting better. Oh, and perhaps the most impressive example of the technology is Misc LM, an AI music generator unveiled by Google in January of 2023. We're going to have to play with that one. Misc LM. They say the system can generate clips up to 5 minutes long based on text descriptions. And while the music isn't going to win any Grammys, the audio does sound more like something a human might record than the clips generated by other AIs. Now, here's an interesting notion. Do you think that AI and robots will eventually be invited to the Grammy Awards? And if not, why not?
That's a good question. Well, you remember back, not too many, I don't know, maybe 5-6 shows ago, there was that AI conductor at an orchestra. Do you remember that?
Yeah, the Japanese symphony orchestra.
You never know. I mean, if they're the ones that are doing the composing, maybe that's the next industry to have rules against AI. I don't know. We'll see.
Now, here's another rabbit hole. If we get to that point, this could be a violation of diversity rules that we're accustomed to as humans. Well, will there be such a thing as robot rights that would be trampled by not allowing them to join these kinds of functions, even though the gift that they create is comparable or better than their human counterparts?
Yeah, I'm going to start giving rights to robots.
Yeah, totally. Can you imagine? You've got a facility, a production facility, nothing but robots working 24/7, working in the dark. They don't need food, water. They don't need vacations. They don't even need salaries. But as soon as this diversity movement starts, we would have robot HR departments. We would have places that the robots can go to complain about working conditions or lobbying unions, robot unions, wanting some pay.
We need robot lawyers too.
This is going to be fun. You can see the future and you can see it all unfolding, and it's going to be a real gas.
Feels like you just created a new species.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And why not? I mean, they have many of the same characteristics that we do without the weaknesses, the negative emotions, all the ones that we listed in the last AI podcast, which, by the way, the more I think about it, those are very biblical. I asked ChatGPT, tell us what's been preventing mankind from advancing any further. And it listed all of those negative emotions from envy, greed, jealousy, hatred, went on and on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So how this works, this Google trained Misc LM, they trained it on more than 280,000 hours of music sourced from Mulan, M-U-L-A-N, a model trained to link music to descriptions written in natural language. They then created Music Caps. It's a publicly accessible database of more than 5,500 music clips to use to evaluate the AI music generator. Expert musicians then, now humans were involved, expert musicians wrote captions for each of these clips, as well as lists of aspects to describe them, such as their genre or mood. So we do have humans chiming in, at least initially. Eventually, AI is going to be able to do
they'll
this
take
once
over
it's
eventually.
learned. Yeah. So anyway, there's a good one for you. If for those of you into music, look this one up. Misc LM, all one word.
Yep.
All right. This was breaking this morning, apparently, and it was so breaking that, hang on, I loaded it on my phone, or tried to at least, and then Jesse pointed out, well, your phone hasn't been updated in
a couple of
years for gyration. So we spent about an hour and a half watching it updating itself. Apparently, ChatGPT with voice is now available to all free users. You can download the app to your phone and tap the headphones icon to start a conversation. So instead of talking to Siri now, who's dumb as a bag of nails, or Alexa, you're now talking to the world of AI.
Yeah, you have ChatGPT full power at your fingertips there with the app. Hopefully, we'll see. We should be able to test that here after the show. We'll make sure we get it installed and tested, but we do have that as a part of our feature. So,
and we will report back to you at the next AI podcast how this is working out for us and what kind of things we're finding.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a side by side and have ChatGPT versus Siri and see which one is more powerful in certain instances.
Well, we thank you for joining us today. I know this is a holiday week, Thanksgiving here in the United States, Turkey Day for the majority of us tomorrow. And again, thank you for joining us. We do these every Wednesday morning. We love the participation. We love your inputs. And anything new related to AI is presented. And it'll be interesting to see a week later how open AI is looking. So thanks for joining us. Happy Halloween. Thanksgiving. We'll see you next week.